Welcome, dear viewers. This special coverage is devoted to the proceedings of the fourth session of the Algerian-Chadian Joint Intergovernmental Commission, as Algeria and Chad continue to move steadily toward building a deeper and more effective strategic partnership rooted in political coordination, economic complementarity, and a shared vision on regional stability. The session opened in Algiers on Tuesday, with Algeria emphasizing that bilateral relations are entering a new phase in terms of quality, pace, and substance. This new dynamic reflects not only a shared political will, but also a clear ambition to transform this partnership into a model of African cooperation based on mutual interests, development priorities, and regional integration. We will unpack all this with our guests right after this. Hello again, dear viewers, to this special coverage, and I'm pleased to welcome here in the studio Mr. Monsef Boudarba, an Algerian economic actor and president of the ACA. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you for the invitation, and good afternoon to all of our viewers.
And we are also joined remotely by Dr. or Mr. Mohamed Krissassi, geopolitical and financial expert from New York. Hello, and good to see you, Mr. Sassi.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the invite. It's always a pleasure being with you.
And later on, we're going to be joined by Dr. Hamoud Saleh, Associate Dean and Professor of International Studies at California State University from Los Angeles. And let's kickstart our discussion here. And let me start with Mr. Boudarba.
Yes.
Foreign Minister Attaf speaks of unprecedented horizons and a new phase in the Algerian-Chadian relations, both in substance and direction. What makes this new phase different from previous cycles of cooperation?
Well, I think basically is the economic approach. We today we can testify that Algeria has a new economic policy in the area, in the region, in the Sahel region. It's natural neighbors. Algeria has a very good relation with its neighbors from the south. This is the time for Algeria to include, beside the very well and complementarity in the political side, to include a good partnership, a good economic ties, and to see where are the advantages for the Chadian and the Algerian businessmen to get together and to work together to build a new partnership, a win-win partnership, which we have the mutual interest, as a target, first of all. The second step is, as you may know, Algeria needs a lot of raw material for Africa, because the Algerian industry today is at an international standard level, and we have the president have give a new instruction for our transformation of our economy. We are going to become an export-oriented economy for our industry, and we are going to get out from the hydrocarbon or oil and gas business and to become, an industrial platform for between Europe and Africa. So this enter the new economic program of the new integration, the regional integration, and Chad play an important role since it's a door for East African countries, and also is a very strong military and secure state for the peaceful settlement for the area. So Algeria has a lot of to win to build a partnership for this, and we belong to an area where peaceful settlement and economic growth has to be encouraged. So I think Algeria and Chad, they can tomorrow serve and become a new important role for the region, and become also let's say, an example for our African brothers and also to consolidate the ASLI-CAF, which is the economic space organization that is very important for Algeria, because we are we created EATF, and also we are supported today all the African countries that wants to be associated to the new economic ties built through the inside the African integration and partnership.
Mm-hmm. And let me turn to Mr. Mohamed Krissassi. As we know that the main focus of this show is about the partnership between Chad and Algeria, and this new strategic phase, what are the real indicators that this transition is actually happening on the ground?
Well, before I talk about transition, I would like to state some fact here. We have to be factual. Algeria and Chad share long, outstanding and historically grounded relation. For more than 25 years of formal diplomatic engagement, the partnership has been marked by cooperation in area of security and regional stability, including the Algerian mediation effort during the 1980 and the subsequent strengthening of bilateral security tied to address terrorism. Here I'm naming the Sahara and the Sahel region. The key dimension of Algeria, they include diplomatic cooperation. Both states have maintained continuous diplomatic representation and have pursued initiatives to deepen collaboration across security, economic, and even academic domain. Of course, the main issue is regional stability and security. Algeria has played a significant role in promoting the regional stability through his involvement, as I said, in resolving the strip, the Auzus, what you call the Auzus strip dispute in 1987. More recently, in September 24, both countries reaffirmed their sharing commitment in combating terrorism, particularly in the Sahara region. And of course, this takes us forward an infrastructure and development, which means that you have to have a bilateral agreement, increasing emphasis in the infrastructure, with an emphasis on the infrastructure development, specifically the road, the project aimed at facilitating Chad access to regional and international market, which Algeria can help. But at today's date, the trade with the, unfortunately I should say, the trade balance between Algeria and Chad is extremely limited. I would say even very, very weak. We don't have a volume of trade that is significant. Algeria import from Chad, I think, is about less than 1 million for sure. And Algeria export to Chad less than 1 million. So the trade, the economical issue here is a lot of work to be done. But I will insist that, the main issue here for us is to work with Chad for the Sahel region and to bring stability. And then when you have stability, you are going to have more trade between the two countries.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the, regardless of, economic alignment, are we witnessing a purely, let's say, political alignment here, Mr. Mohamed Krissassi?
Well, honestly, I cannot see anything coming so far in the term of trade. Yes, Algeria will become the hub of Africa. We are working on it, and we are extending all our expertise to countries like Tanzania, like Rwanda, even countries like now Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire. But with the Chad, I think is a long road to come. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. So beyond the political language, the key question becomes, can this partnership reshape the Sahel equation? Foreign Minister Attaf earlier has highlighted transforming the Sahel neighborhood into a space of peace, security, and prosperity. Mr. Boudarba, can Algeria and Chad realistically turn this vision into a working model for the whole Sahel region?
Yes, if you have certain conditions united. Mm-hmm. If you have, like the professor said, a political stability, mm-hmm. which is new in Chad, because Chad was a very unstable area. You can build a strong, deep economic relation for a long term. So bilateral agreements and political meetings like today, like the commissions and the creation of the council, the business council and everything, are instruments that can help and consolidate the establishment of a long-term cooperation in terms of economic integration and trade exchanges. So today Algeria has to look what is possible to get from Chad, and also Chad has to come to Algeria and to make its shopping, if you permit. So international trade has its own rules. We have to be very cautious for the long term. We always put the Algerian interest first because it's important. If we have the possibility to buy some raw material at a good price with good comparative advantages for our economy, let's do it. If it's not the case, let me tell you tonight that we have to avoid it, because we cannot afford to make mistakes of the past. Today, Chad is a country that can offer some raw materials that are included, in the chain of value of our industry. So I think there is a possibility to see with our Chadian brothers how to transmit this new framework of economic ties in a framework that is mutual benefit for both of us, and in the mutual interest of our economy, and to improve the standard quality of our population. This is the main objective of Africa, because Africa, it's a 900,000 million dollars market. So it's important to have a certain percentage of this international trade market to enter the African market, but you have to enter with a very, let's say, intelligent way that takes into advantage for Algeria what is the best interest for our industry and our agriculture. They have good quality of some material that can be imported in Algeria. We have to build with Chad a good energy tie. We have to secure Chad with some supply of gas and oil, because Chad needs it. We can go and do some business in the oil and gas activity industry, which is important for Algeria, because Algeria has the know-how. We have the know-how and the experience. Algeria has a long experience in gas and oil technology, so we can share that with the Chadian to participate in their energy program development. That is important for Algeria, and also we can go together in some other countries in the southern border of Chad. We can go together. It's good to go in partnership with our friends from the region, because you divide the risk, and also some advices from our Chadian businessmen that are already in the region, trading. So we can, learn from them, and we can do it also with other countries. We have to be open, no close, open to all the possibilities that can offer this new partnership.
As Mr. Mohammed Krissasi mentioned earlier about
Yes.
terrorism, do you think, both countries have the institutional tools to manage cross-border threats?
Yes, of course. I think Chad has a long experience in security matters. They have a lot of civilian turmoils in the past. Today, alhamdulillah, Chad is a peaceful country, very politically stable. They have a good economy. They have secure borders with its neighbors. They have good relations with its neighbor. It's important to have good relations because you cannot build a strong economy if you don't have, a political stability. It's impossible. Algeria has the same foreign policy for the region. We try to have good relations with all our neighbors. The position of our diplomacy is known. We are a country that promotes peaceful agreements. We always respect and make respect the international law. Algeria plays an important role in the international organizations, in the African Union, in the United Nations. Algeria is always in pole position in the right of the determination of the people, in the right to independence, in the right to sovereignty. They respect the peaceful agreements. Algeria is a no-war zone for itself first and for its neighbors. So this is very important to take the opportunity with Chad to build a partnership that is strong, based on trust between the two countries, and it can be a model. Of course, it can be a model to export, promotion, economic promotion, political stability, and good partnership and respect, mutual respect for our Chadian brothers. So I think this is the new approach of our African policy today. I hope Algeria will take advantage and will base its relation on mutual interest. This is very important. In the past, you mentioned in your first question of this interview, you said things are changing. I think they are changing for the better, for the best for both Chad and Algeria, and for Algeria and
for the whole continent.
All its neighbors that are the more welcome to come in Algeria to work with the Algerian. We are an African country. We played an historical, role in the independence of our brothers and African brothers. We invested in the formation, in the education of our African brothers. Today is the time to make a return of investment. But this return of investment has to be made with mutual interests.
You have made a point, which leads me to Mr. Mohamed Krissassi. Mr. Abu Darba mentioned that there is no strong economy if there is instability. In your own perspective, Mr. Mohamed Krissassi, how do you operationalize the link between security and economic development?
They are linked. I mean, you cannot separate them. They go hand to hand. You should have a good economy to have a good policy, and you have to have a policy to allow to have a good economy. Here we are talking about Algeria and Chad, to come back to the subject of today's topic. Yes, as Monsef said, we do have elements of relation between Algeria and Chad that can be a model for Africa. Yes, as Monsef said, but in their current format, today's date, they are not yet a fully developed model of regional cooperation. Why I'm saying that? Where they do show model potential, yes, you have it, but you have to look, number one, to the security and the diplomacy complementarity, to talk as Monsef was saying. The partnership have to combine Algeria on phases, on mediation and political solution with Chad, because Chad have a strong military engagement in Sahel, and you know how is challenging for Algeria. The group of five, not to talk about them, but I remember referring to that. And this dual approach need a dialogue, but with enforcement. We have to have a balanced African security strategy, especially in fragile region like the Sahel, and of course with the cooperation of Chad, because Chad was really involved in it. Now, to go back to Monsef, yes, we have to have the commitment to African-led solution. Both countries, Chad and Algeria, generally support resolving conflict within the continent of Africa, within the framework of the African Union. And all of this because we live, and again I will cite Monsef, for the stability,
Yes.
the political stability and the trade stability. But this alignment have to be done with a broader push to reduce the dependence on external actors and to strengthen our regional ownership of peace and security. Now we are going through a strategic geographic link. Yes, Algeria is one of the main players, not only in Africa, but specifically in the Maghreb and around the Mediterranean. And Chad have this position in Central Sahel. So therefore, it's a natural association that you can have to have a really good cooperation, which will bring the security and also a tangible economic and developmental result that could evolve into a meaningful example to be an African model for the other partner.
And this regional vision is strongly anchored in broader African framework. If we talk, Mr. Boudarba, about African unity as a strategic foundation, what does, alignment with African unity mean for this partnership?
Well, Africa is not only a market; it's a life substance. First of all, like our professor said, it's how to go back to Africa. Algeria never left Africa. You understand? We have to go back now, and we have to respect the people and make sure that there is an interest, a mutual interest, to build something new for Africa. This is the challenge, Plus, Algeria, like the professor mentioned, we have extremely good relations with non-African countries. So we can take this opportunity to make profitable for the African brothers together to make sure that our relation with the United States, Russia, China, the European Union, Algeria has good relations. They had good traditional relations, economic relations and political relations. Since 1962, we have good relations with the BRICS, with Indonesia, with Malaysia, countries that are today, they count in the new economy, the world economy, especially since the Ukrainian war, especially since the Hormuz crisis with the Iranian war. So today, Algeria has to take advantage of this tremendous, this fabulous benefits, capital of good diplomatic relation, neutral position, respect of international law, respect of the peace settlement, respect of the autodetermination of the people of Africa, to make sure that our speech, our let's say our words, will come to the economic table. This is because today we are in an economic war. Today, if you don't have a performance, an economic performance, if you don't have strong economic ties with your allies from the region, you can disappear from the map very easily. Things are changing, moving very quickly in the international world. So it is important to have a good regional settlement, a good, economic ties, deep ties, and a long-term foreign policy that will, will allow the Algerian business to grow, to go to Africa, to exchange, to create free zones with the African country, because most of the raw material today, Africa is a big reserve. You see people, country like China, like India, are very interested in the raw material. There is a competition for gold. There is a competition, for silver. There is a competition for all the strategic minerals that are used in the new technology that are available in Africa, and most of them are available in the sub-Saharan area. So Algeria, they have to know that Algeria today is interested in this program, and I hope the Algerian government understands the urgency, the emergency to go there and to pick up and to make sure that because we have already ties with Africa. We are in a good position. We never participated in a war. We never did things against the African interest. We offer a good, peaceful, secure economic card to put it in the table and to start a new economic partnership based on mutual respect and mutual win-win partnership.
Mm-hmm. And if we talk about, still with the African unity, Mr. Mohamed Karis Sassi, if we give examples about tangible steps that can be, taken in the future, can this relationship be seen as a model for the South-South cooperation in Africa today?
Well, it sounds, my dear friend, that you are arguing that Chad and Algeria should fully align with African-centered partnership, and specifically for the Chad to reduce or avoid reliance on actors perceived by us Algerians as unfriendly to African interests, particularly within the international institution. I'm going to be a little bit here sharp in my comment, and forgive me for that. We talk about the case for African first alignment. Yes, this is a good stand. This is a good rhetoric. But when you look at the growing view that Sahelian state, including Chad, should prioritize continental framework such as the African Union and regional economic integration under the African Continental Free Trade Area. I'm sure that Mr. Monsef can talk about it better than I do. But the rationale still that the strengthening the sovereignty and the policy independence have to be there. We have to reduce our reliance on external powers with the competing geopolitical agenda, and also building home-grown security and development solution. We have really to look to this kind of policy in order for us to, as you said, make Africa first for the good alignment. Now, if I may add, you have also the limit of a full break from external partner. We have to talk about that. You have to be frank about our challenges. The idea that our association with Chad can be all in without engaging less friendly external actors. We have to do the forum, like the African Unity, to enhance the security cooperation and funding the counterterrorism that exists in African country. And I think Chad is also included in what I just said. We need to have, Chad at least need to have a complete disengagement by certain of his external influence. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm very, how can I say that, factual about what I just say. I know that what I said is not always everything is good in the better of the world, but you have also to look in the mirror. And if you want to prioritize our African-led initiative, we have to engage ourselves without the external partner that come, and most of them, they are the ex-colonizer of Africa. I'm talking about France, Belgium, etc. And that, then we are going to be united strategically. Like Monsef said, Algeria did fight for his independence. Algeria fought the fourth military power of the world. Algeria was under the submission of colonialism, the genocidal military colonialist French, and we succeed. We succeed not militarily, we succeed politically. We succeed because you have a strategy. We succeed because you have a confidence in the future, and we succeed because you want to get rid of that external influence. And in Africa today, I don't know which president said that Africa, we have so much wealth in Africa, but we still have so much poverty. And thanks God, it's not the case of Algeria, but it's the case of the Chad. Now, I am going to be saying, as an Algerian and as I look at the future of Algeria and Chad, yes, we have to have a regional security. We have to promote the regional security. We have to have a cooperation. But again and again, I reiterate, without the external control from other ex-colonizators. And the bottom line, yes, we can go with Chad, or can go all in with Chad on an African only, I repeat, African only approach.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed Krissasi. We'll be back shortly, right after the break. Hello, dear viewers, again, and welcome to this special coverage. And before we continue our debate here, we are also joined by Dr. Hamoud Salhi, Associate Dean and Professor of International Studies at California State University from Los Angeles. Thank you for being here with us, sir.
My pleasure, Islam, and my greeting to your host, to your guests.
Our pleasure. So we're talking about the African unity as the strategic foundation, since we're talking about the partnership between Algeria and Chad. Mr. Hamoud Salhi, my first question to you is, how resilient is this partnership in the face of global geopolitical competition?
It is very resilient for the fact that it continues to be a strategic relationship, judging by the agreements and the work that has been put in this agreement. It's strategic also in a sense when you look at the whole Sahel stability, and having Chad having a security agreement with Algeria is a long step to maintaining that stability in the region. The other factor that we should consider is that these are two countries that have leadership that are very anxious and developing a relationship in Africa for that South-South relationship. So the extent, how resilient, it speaks volume. When you see what has been achieved so far, the framework that has been established, that sort of is an indication that this is moving forward in the right directions.
So, but strategy, if we shift to another, file, strategy alone is not enough. Connectivity and infrastructure are essential, Mr. Boudarba. Why is the Trans-Saharan Road considered a strategic economic corridor for you?
Because we cannot make trade, if you allow me, without logistic. Logistic is the base of the exchanges. If you have a strong logistic base built in your country, you can do things, and you can take advantage of sea transportation, railroad transportation, or road land transportation. So to develop the transport with a big T, or logistical infrastructure, are the key to success in the economic ties with Africa. Why? Because Algeria is a continent itself. It's very big, it's huge. So to go from Algiers to Tamanrasset, it's 1 day or 1 day and a half of road. So non-stop. So it's 6 hours of train. And if you want to go to, it's more easier for Algerian boat to leave the Algiers port and to go to Genova, or to go to Barcelona, or to go to Marseille, for instance, is 8, 10 or 12 hours of transferring your goods to Europe, to Southern Europe, then to go to Niger or Mauritania. So basically Algeria is condemned to develop a logistical power basis very strongly. I think we cannot do it alone. We have to associate our partnership, and Algeria, the overall economy, the macro economy today, the signals are green. We have no debts. We have good financial signature at the bank. So this allow the Algerian government to can go and negotiate partnership excuse me, with countries that are specialized in the transport. India, for instance, China, for instance, Turkey, Malaysia are countries that can be very helpful to enter a new partnership win-win and to take profit of this partnership to develop not only the transportation basis in Algeria, to make sure that this infrastructure will be used to trade with our neighbors, so to be a part of the trade, and also to make a transfer of technology, not only for the infrastructure itself, but also for the management. Because Algeria needs international standard of management to improve the capacity of being profitable in transportation cost. Because if you earn the cost battle of the transport, you can be competitive in Africa. So this is very important to understand. We cannot go blind with our money. No, we have to open our eyes and see if we can build a profitable partnership and to have the return of the investments, not only for Algeria, for our partners, and to have a strengthening penetration force with the transportation infrastructure in our Africa sub-area.
Mr. Hamoud Salhi, let's circle back to our first, point of this debate. We talked about Algeria and Chad, their new strategic phase in their partnership. Mr. Hamoud Salhi, are we witnessing a purely political alignment or the emergence of a structured economic partnership?
Well, you have to have a political alignment, meaning that you have to have a leadership that is moving in the same direction. In that case, yes, we are. So that alignment is seen through framing these bilateral cooperations as part, for example, of African models, integration. And it's also viewed more as an internal African initiative that is designed to expand partnerships, including trades within Africa, cross-border infrastructure. All of these are signs that we are doing the practical things. And that is very, very, very important. The logic behind this, your guest before spoke about the trans-Saharan, the transportation, the infrastructures. These are very, very important. The infrastructure is very important to link the economies of the region, not just Chad, but other countries. Understandably, there's a long ways to get to where Africa is connected. But this is also very historical in a sense that we have to look at what Africa provides. I'll give you an example. Back around in 1997, when the MENA organization, the so-called Middle East North African organization or summit was in existence, this came with the idea of integrating the Arab-Israeli conflict, or the Oslo in particular, into economic treaties and so on and so forth. And there were several meetings before that. But in Doha, 1997, Shimon Peres, who was the lead or the keynote speaker of the conference at the time, spoke about the need to integrate the Arab-Israeli economies, which we could talk this day, we could look at how this has been fought. But a very important point that was made at the time is that the Jewish entity also needs to look at the African continent because it has suns, it has the environment, it has huge resources, and they need to tap to that. This is what the Israelis were talking about. Henceforth, you have all these agreements or these relationships that have been tried to establish between that. That shows the significance of the African continent. The second example, mid-2005 or mid-2005, this is when President George W. Bush was in power. His vice president, who is an oil tycoon, has passed in that, made a huge statement about Africa. And the statement was that the oil of Africa is strategic to the United States. The only other oil that has said that's significant is the Gulf oil, meaning that the United States back in 2005 was looking at Africa from the eye of oil. And that's when you look at the relationship that built around that, a significant relationship in that area between the US and the United States. But more important, to preserve that oil, or to preserve those benefits of the US, we following that, or during this era of George W. Bush, we had the establishment of the creation of Africa. And we start looking for a place where to have a headquarters for that African center. Still, that Africa is still managed from an outside country. But here is the point. These are all excellent interests these are all interests from outside powers. Let's not, and I'm sure our friends there mentioned the role of France, the colonial. I was hearing Mr. Cassie talking about the colonial, and Africa should be moved beyond that. Now, when you look at this relationship, and this is where Algeria has been successful at doing, is that what you are doing is that establishing partnership that brings mutual benefit for all parties. This is not just for Algeria or Chad, but more than anything, it fits into the whole strategic African, for the African. It's what President Houari Boumediene talked about, Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. This is an idea that this kind of partnership fits very well. And when you look at the dimension of it, you have the security aspect of it, which speaks to the need to have a Sahel that is stable. This is particularly important when we see France returning back to the area to creating other sort of ways of exploiting Africa. And more than anything comes to economic development. And that's really what you have, what's the good thing about it. It strengthens our partnership in the idea of South-South, and it fits well within as an alternative to what superpower competition of Africa, and it's sound alternative. I mentioned the United States and France, but you have other countries that have looked at Africa from an economic perspective that fits their interests, not those of the African. Algeria and Chad are on the opposite side, that establishing partnership that fits the interests of both countries. And the political alignment is essential, but it moves beyond that alignment. It creates economic condition for success for implementation Islam.
Okay, thank you indeed, Mr. Mahmoud Salhi. Let me go back to Mr. Mohammed Kris Sassi. I mean, from infrastructure to implementation right now, we're talking about the launch of the Algerian-Chadian Business Council in Algiers. Mr. Mohammed Kris Sassi, is this, Business Council a real economic engine or just an institutional framework, according to your own perspective?
my own perspective, following what your question, what I heard from my dear friend, Dr. Salahi, and your eloquent speaker, Monsef. What is in it for Algeria? That's my question. What is in it for Algeria for this international relation that we want to establish with Chad? If I may say, I look at the first one as an Algerian, the security buffer in the Sahel. It's very important. Algeria, top priority is border security and preventing spillover instability from the Sahel. We have 6 borders in Algeria. And then we are going to have a partnership with the Sahel that can help about bringing the stability in the south, in the Sahel region. That's number one. And then the Algerian cooperation with Chad can provide, and I stay only on Chad, I don't want to go further than that because this is the topic of today. The southern security buffer zone that I'm talking about against the armed group operating and still operating in the Sahel corridor, what you call the Sahel corridor. And then we have Algeria can have a cooperation with Chad in improving the intelligence sharing on extremist network, trafficking routes, and militia movement. That's Algeria can do it, and you reduce the pressure on Chad. Now, the Chad help with us? Of course, we, Algeria, we are a regional leadership and influence. I'm sorry about that. Influence. And through Chad, Algeria may gain a greater influence in the central Sahel, because you are a regional leadership in the Maghreb. But also our partnership with the Chad will bring us the influence in the Central Sahel. We bring us also a stronger voice in shaping African security architecture that my friend Dr. Sarhi was talking about, and also the reinforcement of the diplomatic model that Monsef was talking in the beginning of his intervention. Now, of course, we go back to the trans-Saharan connectivity and the trade corridor. Algeria has long-term economic ambition tied to the continental connectivity. Mr. Monsef was talking about the trans-Saharan, for example. With Chad, Algeria will benefit from the potential road and logistic corridor linking North Africa to Central Africa. And of course, the support of Algeria and the vision of being a trade bridge between, of course, the Mediterranean and the sub-Saharan African. I will say that all of this, and I hope that this will take place, and the bottom line for Algeria is a deeper partnership with Chad. It's not just about friendship. I don't care about the friendship. You know, as we said in politics, you don't have a common enemy, you don't have common friend, you just have common interest. And my interest is to have a security for my country deep in the Sahel, to have a better regional influence, to have the trade connectivity ambition, and of course the diplomatic leadership in Africa. This is, I think, what I would like to see out of this relationship with the Chad.
Which leads me to Mr. Boudarba. We were talking about
Professor
a different point
totally
here.
right.
One of the most promising entry points already identified as the pharmaceutical sector. Why is the pharmaceuticals emerging as a strategic entry point?
All these new markets are important, and they are emerging markets, and they are integrated economic spaces. And we have one in Africa. Our objective as leadership, because we are a country, like say Professor and Mr. Salahi, Algeria always played a leadership role. Let's say our commitment is to promote this leadership, to take all our vital resources from Africans brothers, and to go together to this challenge, to this international challenge. But let me say again, we cannot do it alone. We have to be very wise and to prepare our Algerian youth to an very open world, because today the technology is connected, you know. You have in your telephone, mobile, you have everything, all the informations in a very quick timing. So I think Algeria has to be connected to the international trade. We have a chance to be very well located. We have all the conditions to succeed this magnificent integration African program. I think this is the time, like say the professor, is the time to make business and to take this business for the best interest of Algeria's sovereignty.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that we have reached the end of our news.
Thank you so much.
Our show today. Dear viewers, Algerian-Chadian relations are clearly moving from political understanding toward a broader and more ambitious partnership spanning trade, investment, industry, energy, infrastructure, and institutional coordination. But the real test remains implementation, turning political momentum into measurable projects, effective follow-up mechanisms, and tangible results for both economies and populations. This brings us to the end of our special coverage for today of the fourth session of the Algerian-Chadian Joint Intergovernmental Commission. A big thank you to our guests for all of their insights, Mr. Monsef Boudarba, Mr. Mohamed Kourisasi, and Mr. Hamoud Salehi, who came late today. And thank you as well, dear viewers, for watching, and see you again in a bit.